For those of you who don't know me, I am Janelle Moravek, and I am the Executive Director at Youth and Family Counseling. At YFC, what we do all day, every day, is deliver counseling sessions. But what sets us apart is our commitment to making them accessible to people from all walks of life. I don't know of any other counseling agency in our area that has the level of accessibility that YFC does. We serve people of all ages. We work in all different kinds of ways to make sure that our services are affordable. We take employer-based insurance. We work with the Medicaid MCO plans. We have a sliding fee scale. We offer services in Spanish and in English. And before COVID, we were delivering services all over Lake County. But in addition to our high level of accessibility, we also believe that there should be no wrong door to treatment. So if we can't help someone who calls us seeking help, we try to give them a warm handoff to someone who can help them. So tonight, we are celebrating Mental Health Awareness Month, and I want to wrap up the month by talking about awareness and access to mental health care, as well as what it's like for YFC to act as an open door to mental health care right now. To help me with this, I've asked Gina Tober, YFC's Director of Clinical Services, and Bri Roberts, YFC's Client Services Coordinator, to join me. So a little bit about Gina. Gina joined Team YFC about 5 years ago as a therapist, and then she stepped into the clinical director role in 2017. In addition to being an excellent therapist, Gina is also a terrific administrator and leader. She led the counseling program at Methodist Youth Services before she came to Youth and Family Counseling, and now she leads a team of over 15 clinicians. Bri came to YFC 3 years ago. Her experiences working on a crisis hotline prepared her well to manage all of the phone calls that we get at YFC. She is the first person someone talks to when they call us. And so both Gina and Bri together are the perfect pair to be talking with us tonight about the high demand for mental health care services that we're seeing right now, both at YFC and in our community. So I'd like to start off by asking Bri and Gina to share a little bit about themselves.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Bri. I actually came to YFC right out of college. I had majored in sociology and then I had minored in psych. So YFC and the role I play here is right up my alley. My experiences volunteering for the crisis line did prepare me to manage the calls that we get in terms of assisting those who are in difficult times in their lives, themselves, their kids, their family, their relationships. So I'm in charge of managing all of the service requests that YFC receives. This means that I talk with people, understand what they're looking for, and place them with an appropriate therapist. Something that I really enjoy about YFC is YFC's enthusiasm for education. Every week we have a staff meeting with, everyone, and most of the time it's dedicated to learning something new. And coming from my position, not being a clinically educated for counseling, I'm learning something new every week, and it helps me with my job to best assist everyone. So, it's all about learning and, going from where you're at to being better. So that's what I love.
Awesome. Thank you, Bri. Gina, how about you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Gina Tober. I'm the Director of Clinical Services at YFC. My overall job is to ensure and oversee the clinical services that we provide. So as a member of the leadership team, I've been charged with making sure all of our services are high quality and effective, from our counseling services to our programs into the community, and all the administration that comes along behind that. What I love the most about YFC is our mission to opening doors. we make it a mission and we live that mission out every day. And that might mean financial limitations and it might mean language barriers, but it also might mean having a unique insurance. And so we try to very intentionally work at identifying and resolving those barriers that impact anyone in our Lake County community so that they can focus then on improving their mental health.
Awesome. Thank you. So I think it makes sense to start at the beginning. And let's talk about service requests. Bri, what happens when someone calls in to IFC seeking help?
Sure. So inquiries come in a variety of ways. So most of the time it's a call. The call goes to our main business line, and we now have intake receptionists who will answer on people's first call, so that we're capturing their information, what they need at that time. Other times is an email. I give my number out, I give my email out all the time. Pre-COVID, when we were doing fairs, I probably went through half my business stack in a year. So I get a lot of emails. We also have on our website some form submissions, which are very similar to the structure that we use in an intake call. So people are already, in their pajamas, in their living room, doing it on their own, in their own comfort, to be able to make that first reach. So what ends up happening is their inquiry comes directly to myself, and then I do my best to give them a call within 2 business days, trying to be as quick as possible because, cases like these are sensitive and sometimes it's not, efficient to wait, days and days and days. So we do strive for the within 2 business days. And then when I give them a call and the clients and I connect, we will discuss, first off, their reasons for seeking therapy. It could be a whole number of reasons, but we do tackle that in the intake call, which is about 10 to 15 minutes. And then we'll discuss, their presenting concerns, ultimately getting an understanding of what they're in need of, what their needs are. We'll discuss some payment options. So like Gina said, we take a whole variety of insurances. And the tricky thing with insurances is that, their requirements. And so certain clinicians take certain insurances. And so it can be, I have a chart. It's long, it's big, it's a big chart. We have so many clinicians, there are so many insurances. So being able to hook people up if they're wanting that, in-network benefits, we can see what we can do. If people are uninsured or not wanting to use their benefits, then we have some out-of-pocket options, which we discuss as well. So Janelle, like you had said, the sliding fee scale, we will look at the client's monthly pay stubs or their year gross income and come up with that number at the intake call. So they know going into counseling what their payments will look like. Because, while there shouldn't be a price tag on counseling, there is. It's an accountability thing. It's, we have to continue to be able to do what we do. So having that right away puts people at ease. And then we look at scheduling in the intake call. It's, if we don't have something available, then we will do our best to provide them with referrals to agencies that also we know do good work, and that we know that they can connect with.
So that's a really good point. It sounds like when people call in, you work them through a series of questions, you're getting some information from them, but then if you can't get them in, we try to find them help elsewhere, which I love that about YFC. How do you tell them that? How do you work with them to work them through that process? I know that's really hard for you.
Yeah, it is not the easiest. Obviously, I want everyone to be a YFC client. I want everyone to be in our environment and with our therapists. We're obviously the best, but obviously there are amazing clinicians and counselors out there. It's really just who's the best fit for each client. So, maybe it's a personality thing, it's a specialization. Just being honest with the client has been what I have learned is the best, is that providing them the information up front and, saying, I apologize, I am looking, I am not finding something in what you need. Let me provide you with agencies that I know and trust. I have a pre-approved binder because I do my own due diligence. I know when I first started working here, a girl before me had a very large binder. And so I went through, I've done it each year. I've updated the binder and made sure that we have the correct information, that we're constantly going through and, updating, okay, well, this person's responsive and this person just got a new clinician. Oh my goodness. So it's staying up to date. It's just making sure that the client knows that we're passing them off to someone who we trust, which I think goes a long way in their therapeutic process.
So how do you get into the pre-approved binder? Like, how do you know who's out there? Because there are 5 gazillion therapists in the area, right?
There are a lot. I mean, there are websites dedicated. It's like a Facebook for counselors. You just, there are so many options, and, finding the right fit, finding the right counselors that are pre-approved, that's my lingo, but someone who I don't even know might be out there might be a great fit. So I am a part of some like networking groups that I'm constantly, meeting new clinicians, meeting new agencies, finding out their information. So I'm with a networking group that has been long established and has a large, clinician base, not only mental health, but behavioral health, nutritionists, different kinds of behavioral health counselors. And then I'm also in a newer group for intake coordinators specifically. So people like myself who have large agencies that they are the gatekeepers for, and I gather their information as well. So it has been, a work in progress. Everything is always changing, and new clinicians are coming to the forefront or coming into Lake County. I know King County, I don't know a lot about, but Lake County is so vast and we have so many schools close that, there's always, a need for new counselors.
Yes, but there's an incredible need for new counselors. Let me ask both of you, are there any cases that we refer out right away? We just say, you're just not a good fit for us, even if we do have room? Does that ever happen?
So at YFC, as Bri was going through, there are a couple of really important pieces. We want to make sure we're in network if possible, the time frame matches up, that the scheduling matches up, and most importantly, that our clinicians have the specialty to do the service that needs to be done. So one example of this is, at present, we don't have any therapists on staff that specialize in disordered eating. And there are many fabulous local places that do. And so that's one population that when they call in looking for specific treatments for eating disorders, we go ahead and let them know we don't have that specialty, but here are a couple places to call because they will have that specialty for you.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So can you give me a sense of the volume of calls? I mean, is it easy to pick up the phone and get an appointment with YFC or anybody else right now?
Before this call, I looked back at our data tracking just to have like appropriate numbers. No, not really. Each month YFC receives between 130 and 160 unique inquiries, unique,
Yikes.
not in like, the whole case itself and the case details. It's unique being each inquiry is a specific case. So no matter how many times you call, you're still considered. So like Janelle can call, but Janelle calls 5 times. Janelle is one unique case. Same thing with anyone else. So that's what we're taking into account.
That's a lot of calls. Yikes. Has it always been like that, or is this feeling different than pre-COVID?
That's a yes and a no.
Okay.
You referenced when I started 5 years ago, and I started alongside Katie Paperniak, and we had come in a week apart, and we were just dying for clients. We were trying to snake them from the intake coordinator. We were going back and forth because our ramp up, it took like 9 months or something. Like that was the schedule. And now like I joke with new hires, I can fill you up really quickly. And so over the course of the last 5 years, our demand has started to increase a lot. And so when we have new therapists, even a year after I started my very first hire, we were able to ramp that individual up really quick. And a ramp up, if you're not aware, is to put people on a caseload. So typically you don't have like 40 people call, you put 40 people on one person's caseload and then you call it a day. They typically come in week by week by week. And so our ramp up time frame has really shortened. The other piece that has really changed is there used to be these really clear ebbs and flows at YFC and in private practices. And so there would be a lot lower demand at the very, very beginning of the year. So we're looking at like December would start to fall, January would start to fall, and then over the summer months, which makes some sense if you're thinking your deductibles are starting up again. And so some people opt not to, and the December month tends to be very busy for folks. And then you have the summer month where kids aren't in school, and we have about half of our population are children. And so, they're going and they're doing things, and the school is not referring as much, and they're, doing better because one of those big stressors, that school stressor, is not there. And over the last couple of years, those ebbs and flows have not really been there, and it has just been a go, go, go. And last year with COVID, we saw the same thing. We didn't see any kind of dip in December. In fact, I think we outperformed our December. As last December, we saw more clients than any other December. And that was down a whole therapist. So that was pretty shocking. And we had a lot of folks taking time off. And so our demand has been really increasing and sustained. So we are very interested to see what will happen as our summer transition hits, as kids start to become, have a little bit more free time, but also are traveling now that the state has opened up and there are more opportunities to socialize and do those types of social activities. I did want to point out a couple differences in the COVID experience, in that we have a lower number of appointments available for folks. So that's because we have been tracking our data, and we're finding that folks are staying in treatment longer. This has been one of the most stressful years, and I would challenge anybody who said, nah, it was easy. But it's been a really stressful year, and that result has led people to stay in counseling longer. It's helped reduce some of that stigma of seeing a counselor, right? So we're seeing this huge demand, not even at YFC, but over the profession. And we had a lot of clients that we had previously seen asking to come back for like what we would call like a booster session, or to come back and kind of go over some of the old skills that they had, because the 2020, 2021 year was really rough. One of the other pieces that we missed, we had a therapist who had planned long ago to go into his own private practice. And he's a Bri approved counselor. But so he left the team in November, and then we had made the decision not to have any interns. We don't have a lot of interns typically. We don't use them for the brunt of our work. We usually have 1 or 2. But because of the remote work that we were doing, and the fact that interns need to be supervised and in the same space with a supervisor, we had opted not to get our interns. to have an internship during the 2021. I am happy to say we are about to onboard another therapist. I don't even think I told Bri.
I know.
But he'll be starting on the 14th, and we are finalizing some of our interns for this year. So I think we for sure have one. So we're trying to build up our capacity a little bit. Is really important for us in meeting this demand. That call demand of over 100 calls a month is pretty consistent for YFC and has been for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
Is that, and what about the team, like the clinical team? That's got to be hard because by nature, we want to help people. We want to solve their problems. We want to take care of them. And having to say no has got to be really hard. And then what's that doing to our therapists? Is there any trickle down to the therapists?
Having to say no is really difficult when you have a caseload. I personally very much struggle with this, and most people realize that. Particularly if I have somebody calling in who I had seen in the past, or who has another child. I maybe saw one child and another child is having some issues. And we get a lot of calls to our personal numbers. And so Bri does a really good job of making sure we say, you have to go through the intake coordinator. She will catch us if we put somebody new in our schedule.
Yeah.
Because she manages that, managing the calls. And so if we start to fill up our own schedule, it will really mess up our system. But it's been really difficult and stressful. So the therapists have seen more clients than they have ever seen, and are going through the same COVID stressors that the rest of the world was going through. And one of the best benefits for us, for YFC, out of telehealth, just so I can advocate for telehealth, is that our cancellation rate has dropped. So before we were running at about 22% cancellation rate. Well, it is so much lower now that we have these quick reschedules. If somebody forgets, you can give them a call within 5 minutes and they say, oh my gosh, I totally forgot, I'm logging on right now. And so the ability to see more clients and have a lot less cancellation time has been really great. And we've definitely seen that in our numbers.
Which is awesome. You're talking about, how the demand is everywhere a little bit, not just at YFC, but, private practices and other organizations. Are clinicians, right, moving to the demand? So are you worried about retaining our team? I mean, we've got really amazing therapists. I'd hate to lose any of them. Are you worried about that?
Well, I'm always worried about losing my clinicians. We joke that we try not to be a family at YFC, but it really feels like a family often. And so it can be really difficult and sad when someone leaves the team. Looking at our capacity, you could get really freaked out thinking that people were going to be moving on and off the team. We've seen, if you are a psychotherapist out there, you have been bombarded in LinkedIn and by Better Health and all of the job seeking places, recruiters, because there's a huge, huge demand. And so what that looks like are lots of therapists from nonprofits are saying, I would really like to try my own practice. Most of the younger clinicians have grown up with computers, are really familiar with them, and they have these electronic health records and systems that make it significantly easier, whereas it was a lot more difficult. And now with telehealth, you can do it from the comfort really of your home, depending on how you set that up. So we're seeing a lot of therapists leave to start their own practices who might not have left. The other piece that we're really seeing is therapists from group practices leaving to start their own practice. And so when they leave from that, really what YFC is competing with for really quality therapists are other group practices. So those practices that are private practices in like down the street who have really quality therapists who do a really good job, that's who YFC is competing with for our employees, because in order to work at YFC, you have to be a really good therapist. There are lots of other things. But if we're all going to be Bri approved, right? If I'm going to have confidence in recommending anybody see any of the therapists that I work with, they have to first be a really good therapist. And so that definitely makes a big threat, and it makes it a little trickier to find new talent. And so at YFC, we have hired probably literally half of the staff started as interns, whether that was 2 years ago, whether that was 12 years ago, whether that was more than 12 years ago. And so that what would you call that? That flow, that not workflow.
Yeah, the bench that we have.
Yes, the bench, the more bench. We did not have. We were really lucky to retain the two interns that we had prior to COVID, and that was just, I mean, that was amazing because the amazing therapists. And so as we start to look for filling our other opening, it makes it a little trickier to capture the eye of folks, because as a nonprofit and as an agency that has employees, we do not pay the same hourly or like the same rate that a group practice or a private practice would. And that rate looks really glittery and shiny because it is. And so we have to work twice as hard to make YFC really glittery and shiny all around. And I know you're going to ask me what that means, so I'm just going to say it. So
what makes us glittery and shiny?
So we be glittery and shiny all the way around is we really try to look at, why do people want to work here and how can we keep them working here? Sometimes people come in, they want to get experience and then they leave, and that's really great and wonderful, but it would be most beneficial for us, because of the work that we do with clients, that somebody comes on staff and stays on staff for a really long time. Now, YFC is very blessed to have some really, really long-term employees. And I think that's definitely a testament to not just like a new focus on work culture, but a long-term focus on work culture. So we maintain and we offer a total rewards package. And so that looks like, I have my notes, I have to read them. That looks like PTO and sick, health insurance, short-term and long-term disability. A couple, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, Janelle and I worked out a revenue share plan. We want to reward our rock stars. So the people who, you need to see 10 people and you just went ham and you saw 15. We want to really reward the people who are stepping above and beyond. And we want to maintain our rocks. So those are the people who are steady, they're true, they come in, they're going to get it done, and they're crushing it. And so recognizing that that's only one piece. The reason that people come to YFC and work here is because they want that professional growth. They want that support. We provide a ton of support for our therapists. If you attended the last Fireside Chat, we like smother people in support. If you're a brand new clinician and you're getting into your licensure, you're going to get individual supervision. You're going to have an emerging clinician professional development group. The whole staff have access to supervision as needed. They have a weekly consult group that everyone participates in, and we have a weekly staff meeting that everyone participates in. And so that piece, we have a really intentional look on how can we grow professionally and support people. And so we do fun things. We do a lot of psycho ed. We do a lot of internal trainings, and then we do some boring administration stuff, which usually gets to be Janelle and I's jam.
It's usually my job. It's usually my job. I'm boring.
I've received feedback, and it can be a little dry. So we're really trying to make YFC a place that you want to come and work, because there's the work, and that's so, as Gary would say, compelling and wonderful. And we have a very diverse group of clients, which makes it really, as a therapist, really challenging and enjoying. And you know that you're doing a service. There are not many agencies anywhere that provide the quality of care that we do for our entire population. And when you roll into YFC, it does not matter if you're paying $30 on the sliding fee scale, if you have the best insurance, if you have the worst insurance, you're going to get the same access to the same therapist, the same schedule options. And so that is a really big piece of maintaining our YFC team. That was a long answer.
That's all right. I love that about YFC, that there's this whole, we serve everybody, right? And that's one of the reasons why it's so important for us to have experienced clinicians, because we get everything. You never know who's gonna call Bri, right?
Mhm.
But I am watching our time, and we're already at 7:33. So I want to quickly pivot to give some tips on what to do if you need counseling services. First, Gina, when do you know? Like, when do you cross that line and you're like, "Ooh, I need to call for help"? Like, how do you know when that moment you're in it and you need to say, "Okay, I got to call someone"?
And I would say two things. One, it's always helpful to catch it before it snowballs. And so if you or a loved one are starting to notice that some things are going on for you, whether that is you're not quite feeling like yourself, you're feeling down, or you or your loved one is having a difficult time doing some of the things that they used to do, particularly some of the things they enjoy. We at YFC want you to get care quickly. One of the best things you can do is reach out. If you're a student, reach out to your school supports. If you're a professional, most companies have an employee assistance program that provides you with some supports. Your spiritual leaders, looking at those options. When it gets to the point where you or your loved one's mental health is reducing the quality of your life, where you're having all of these negative impacts at school or work or in your relationships, or if you or a loved one has really tried to fix, let's say you're feeling really nervous all the time, and you've tried a couple times and you can't quite figure out what's going on, or you've started to develop these habits that are unhealthy to manage your mental health, it's time to call a mental health professional.
Okay, so my next question though is, once you've hit that moment, how do you know who to call?
Call Bri.
Right.
Call Bri.
Call Bri.
Okay, again, not everyone can
just call
call me.
Well, and oftentimes I tell people, if they're like, I don't know, I'll be like, just if you call Bri, Bri will sort it out for you. That might not be the best solution, but if you're really unsure, Bri will help you out. The counseling and the psychotherapy community has a lot of different names. So we have psychiatrists and psychologists, and we have PsyDs, and we have PhDs, and we have master's level, and at master's level we have professional counselors and social workers and marriage and family therapists, and it is really, really confusing.
That's super confusing.
That's just the state of Illinois.
A lot of letters.
All states have different like names and requirements and all those good things. And so the biggest difference, I would say, if you're calling for therapy services, is there are doctoral trained counselors and therapists,
okay.
So like your clinical psychologist. Oftentimes they do testing. Sometimes they do, oftentimes they also do psychotherapy services. And then you have your master's level psychotherapist. So at YFC, the vast majority of folks are master's level psychotherapists. So what that means is the doctoral folks have completed a doctoral program, right? Mm-hmm. And then we call them doctor, but I don't know very many that actually make you call them doctor. Either way. And then we have our master's level professionals who complete a master's education either in specifically counseling, in marriage and family counseling, or in social work, professional social work. And they do their master's level training, and then they do 2 years under supervision of a fully licensed or a fully trained psychotherapist. And so when you call in and you're wondering what's the difference, should I go with the doctor? I want the best care possible. You're really looking at two types of professionals that both have the capacity to provide you with services. From my perspective, for treatment purposes, it's most important that you find a therapist, whether that's someone who has a doctoral degree or somebody who has a master's degree and is licensed, who has experience in your area of concern, and that you can develop a trusting relationship with. Because one of the biggest factors, and if if any of the therapy services you receive is going to be helpful is if you have that therapeutic relationship with your therapist. If you can tell them, really what's going on and be open with them and develop that trust, it impacts the rest of your treatment in such a vast way that it is one of the most important pieces that you can look for when you're looking for a counselor.
That makes complete sense. Okay, so now I know I'm going to call Bri. I'm going to say I don't understand anything about that alphabet soup. I'm just going to call Bri and she's going to walk me through all of this. Bri, what makes a great call? What should I have ready at my fingertips when I call you so that you can help me?
Okay, so what you should have when you call, you should have, if you want to use your insurance benefits, have your card on you. You should also, if you are organized and use a calendar, have your calendar, because we will look at scheduling like right away.
Okay.
And we want to make sure that we put you with a clinician who has scheduling that will work for you consistently. It will be, it's my mantra, same day, same time. Like every week, that's your expected time. The appointment, literally, your name is etched into it. It might not be a rock and it might not physically be etched, but it is electronically etched. It will be your time. It is dedicated to you. Obviously, schedules change and we try and be flexible, but the mantra is same day, same time.
Got it. So if I'm committing to Tuesdays at 5, that's my time. Not just this week, but like every week.
Right. Yes. Or, what makes sense for you? If financially you can only do every other week then. Myself, the clinicians, we understand that financially you have to do what's best for you and your family. But going back to the intake call, so you should have your insurance card, you should have your calendar.
Yep.
And you should, okay, so you call, you
Mhm.
email, we'll just say call right now. You
Okay.
call, you reach one of our intake receptionists. They're going to gather the script that I have given them. Something that I always ask, it's the information I need. It's what I like to say, the bare minimum. We just need this information. We are not intruding on your life. We just want to make sure we're able to place you with someone who is appropriate. We'll ask, again, you're presenting concerns. You are talking to someone who is, legally HIPAA compliant, someone who is a trusted, mental health supporter, might not be licensed, but we're able to assess what your needs are. I know the clinicians at YFC, I've been here for 3 years. One of my onboarding things was, having a conversation in depth with every single one. And that mentality has stayed true through these 3 years. And I'm always calling up people and learning new things and, their clientele type and making sure that we're able to place appropriately. So we'll talk about your presenting concerns, the reason you're seeking therapy, what your needs are. We'll then, if you want to use your insurance, we'll take your insurance numbers. We send that to our billing department. They verify everything because insurance is confusing. If you don't want to use your insurance or you're underinsured, we will discuss at that time the payment option. So we have a full price of services, and then we have the sliding fee option. So we'll discuss which is best for you. And then after that, we look at scheduling right away. The call in itself is like 10 to 15 minutes. It's not too much of your time. It's enough to get the right amount of information. And so when we look at scheduling, again, the mantra of same day, same time, every week or bi-weekly or whatever suits your fancy, but we do try to do every week. Some of the clinicians are doing telehealth. Some of the clinicians are doing both telehealth and in person. So we do try and meet the client where they're at. I know with isolation due to COVID, kids are lacking that socialization. And so they're Zoom fatigued. They're just done. So parents were like, they're going to need in person because they're not gonna be there mentally. Absolutely understand. So we do try and again place appropriately. And the biggest thing is to know when you call, you're going to be talking to myself, and we're going to do the best that we can to place you appropriately.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. I'm watching our time. We're getting to the end of the hour. Alyssa, did we have any questions in the chat that we need to address, or things that people wanted to know that we didn't cover in our conversation already?
Yes. So one of the questions received, and also feel free if any of you in attendance have a question that comes up as we're doing answering this question or other questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat box as well. So the first question is, what is one of the most fulfilling or meaningful experiences that you've had during your time at YFC? That would be for both of you. Everyone.
That's a good one.
So for me, one of the most overall in my experience at YFC, one of the most, meaningful experiences is because YFC is so insurance friendly, I am empaneled in I don't know how many, over 10 insurance panels. Over 10, Bri? That seems like a lot.
Let me pull up my chart. Hold on.
Okay. So a lot. Whereas at another practice, if somebody, if you're working with a client who loses their job or has some financial concerns or has an insurance change, you can go from mid-treatment with a client to having to terminate with them for those financial reasons Bri was talking about. And so one of the best pieces at YFC, and it happens pretty consistently, is that I'm working somebody, we're probably about mid-treatment. And so on average, I work with folks for maybe 16, 17 sessions. It just happens to be my average in the style that I work. About halfway through, they have a big insurance change and they go from a private insurance to a MCO, or they no longer have insurance. And having that conversation with folks can be really painful, and they bring that into the room and they're very anxious and very upset because they recognize that they don't have the funds to continue with services. And for me, the most meaningful experience working at YFC is looking them in the eyes and saying, we are going to be okay. We are not going to stop our treatment. We're going to work it out. We have these other options. Let me get the insurance if you do have it. And if you don't, we have our fee agreement that Bri was talking about, the sliding fee scale. It's an agency document, so you don't have to come up with it off the top of your head. And we work with everybody. We want to make sure that if you're in treatment, you can finish your treatment. It's a huge piece for us. We also work with some amazing partners in the community. And have some grant options. So we work with Mother's Trust, which is really amazing. And they, shout out to Mother's Trust, help us cover some services. And we have a grant with Lake County, shout out to Lake County, that also help us subsidize so our costs can be even lower out of pocket for folks.
That's awesome. That's really great. Do you want to speak to that, Bri, or are you? Do we ask for another question?
Not as a clinician, I don't see, I'm not in the therapeutic room. I'm not in the therapeutic relationship. I just get it started. I can't really speak to the individual calls, but knowing that, looking back on callers that I remember, I still see that they're in treatment and that the relationship is working and that I did a good job placing them and that they're getting the help that they need. So not one experience, but knowing that, there are some callers that I remember their calls and remember their names. And so going back and looking at the schedule and seeing them just nonchalantly when I'm going to place someone else, I go, oh, yay. So that's always so nice to know that it's still going well, is what I hope.
Awesome. That's awesome. Alyssa, any other questions?
Yes. So another one would be, how do you cultivate peace and joy within yourself during times of stress or worry? As well as, how do you think that that helps you when interacting with clients or prospective clients?
Oof, that's a good one.
I mean, I know what I do. So I have a couple of different things. So my office also happens to be my workout room. So that just kind of goes to show what I prioritize for my inner peace and what I like to call sanity. I also enjoy the 1,000 piece puzzle that I tackle at least twice a year. In my recent move, I walk on the beach with my dog and my fiance all the time. So that is amazing. And I mean, you can find peace in all sorts of different ways. It's just how it works for you. And those are mine.
And I am a talker. I like to talk things out. If you ask my husband, that poor man, he keeps trying to fix all my problems, and I just need to think them through. And if anyone tells you they don't have problems or they don't have struggles, then run away from that person, because there's something wrong with them. Because it is really normal in life to have highs and to have lows. And I think that recognizing when you are really stressed or you need a big change, or you're not functioning at the highest capacity that you could be, gives you more empathy and understanding when you are working with other people. So in the room, I always say it's not about me. Like, it's me outside of the room. So I have to take care of myself when I'm not working with a client. And then when I'm working with a client, I'm trying to be wholly focused on that and understanding and empathizing where, lots of times these mental health issues pop up and you're like, I just thought I was anxious. I just thought I was a little nervous. And all of a sudden I have such a hard time leaving my house, or I've never really liked germs. And now COVID has come and I'm too scared to, go see my parents or go visit with my friends, or, what happens if I have to go to the doctor? And having those experiences personally really help you to recognize the impacts that they'll be having on other folks.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome, guys. Thank you. I have another one, if you want to tackle another one.
Last one.
What is one thing that you've learned during your time at YFC that you didn't know before joining the team?
It's a good one.
My learning experience comes because I was fresh out of college. I am not familiar with all the things that go into helping and cultivate clients, and that I wasn't trained in that. But for me, the thing I learned the most, or what I learned during my time before joining, there is a delicate balance between providing counseling for all the people who call, and then making sure that each therapist can continue to do what they love for years. So preventing burnout is something that I did not think, not that it didn't exist, but that I would fully understand. So that has been a big thing for me, just in my start to a life in a job and career. So that can carry over into other aspects as well.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? I mean, I believe in the power of one person to change the world, to save the world, but it's really hard to balance that. There's so much we want to do to help, and I have to think about what can I do. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? It's
Well, and you can
hard.
think of it as superheroes. Superman also has his own kryptonite, and that's why he is part of a team. Or
I love that
Iron, or
analogy.
you can think about the different universes. There's DC, there's Marvel. You can debate on which one's better, but there's teams.
Different webinar.
You know, that's a different one. I'll go off in that tangent. Should we start now?
Yeah, totally. I don't think we can come up with a better rap than that, because superheroes saving the world, right? At YFC, we're doing counseling and helping people, so helping save them, and we're doing it as part of a team. So it's a team. We work together, we work with partners, we work with all of you. So I think we should just leave it right there. It's been a great conversation. Gina and Bri, thank you so much for sharing all of the tips and your wisdom and your experiences. I think that really helped bring YFC to life. Alyssa, thank you for managing all of the tech and making all of this possible.
Sure thing.
I really like these. So we're going to do it again. I love talking to my team about all kinds of stuff. So look for more information about our next Fireside Chat. And in the meantime, take good care. All right.
Bye all.
Bye.
Thank you.